I am so tired of coming on this podcast every single week and telling you to stop playing T.Y. Hilton. Like, just stop it.
Mikey needs help.
Mikey needs help.
I was like, if you don't have Jeff Wilson in here, and if you don't run it on first down, I'm gonna strangle you through that TV.
You should know better than everyone else. That fool tears you up when you play you.
Yeah, but he
Don't you want him on your team?
I have him at number 25.
Thank you. Fine. Todd's the reasonable one on this show.
I take issue with everything he said there.
Well,
I really do.
DeAndre Swift. He's gonna break them tackles, son.
That's bold. That's bold. That's putting your nuts on the table right there.
Hey, there's the first time for everything.
Waxing poetic over here with Todd Diamond.
Dude's old.
So what? He's not as old as Brady, and you're jerking him off before the show starts.
I have Sutton in my top 10. I have him at number 9. Yes.
You know what? I'm just canceling the league. I can't do this with you guys. Welcome to another edition of the MHA Podcast. Eric Lansing here along with Todd Diamond and Mikey Renault. We're online this week trying some new software, trying some new equipment. So we'll cross our fingers and hope that all goes well. What's up, gentlemen? How are you doing this evening? It's Wednesday night.
Yeah, doing good. Ready for the second podcast. It's my favorite one, rookies. Gotta love it.
People love the rookies. They're the young guns. There's so much hype involved. Obviously, there's a day, actually 3 days, dedicated to drafting these young fellas, and so much analysis online, and they haven't failed yet. And so, and most of the time, if you draft a rookie, you may be a little nervous, you may be a little hesitant, but when they pan out, you feel good about it. And so, except for those who, draft those rookies and then drop them, and then it's just awful, right, Todd?
Yeah, I mean, who does that? Ugh, I mean, God, that person must really bad at fantasy football or something. I don't know about that.
Definitely have to be patient when it comes to rookies. All right, so some news. There's not a lot of news going on these days, but
to me, the most amazing thing about the news is that whatever goes on in the world, it exactly fits the number of pages that they're using in the paper that day. Interesting concept.
A couple of ones that popped up that I'll mention here. What will be the new name of the Washington football team? Well, we know the name won't be the Warriors. Ownership says that Warriors is too closely associated with the Native American race. But we're supposed to have a new name before next season. So it'll still be Washington football team this year. And then hopefully we'll have a new name for the 2022 season. Guys, any thoughts what the new name should be? Washington Todd Diamond?
It's tricky. Yeah. Washington, yeah, that's good.
Should just call
tricky.
them like
Washington.
just call them like the Freedom
Monuments.
that
Sounds so boring. I mean, that's the only one I can think of. But I'm a boring person, so that's the only one I could think of. Because I mean, what else are you gonna name it?
It's not my favorite one, but I'm excited anyway.
Washington Freedom.
Yes.
Washington Freedoms.
Probably the best name that I've heard, just because there's so much sarcasm behind that. So we'll see what they come up with. I'm sure they're spending millions of dollars on all this research and testing and so forth. So we'll figure that out as before next season. One last note, just especially if you're a Bronco fan, legend Alex Gibbs passed away on Monday at 80 years old. He was the architect of the offensive line and the offensive line scheme for those Bronco teams in the 90s and into the early 2000s. He was a big reason a lot of those Bronco running backs reached 1,000 yards and, of course, helped the Broncos win 2 Super Bowls. Spent 14 seasons with Denver, and so that was kind of tough to see. And, especially if you're on the fantasy side of things, it was which Bronco running back was going to get 1,000 yards, and that's maybe one of the reasons why they didn't keep Clinton Portis around, because they figured, well, we'll trade him for Champ Bailey, who's now in the Hall of Fame, and just pick up other running backs and then run for 1,000 yards. Is that right, Tom?
Yeah. I mean, the fact of the matter is, obviously Clinton Portis ran for 1,500 yards back to back. That was amazing in itself right there. But, yeah, you're absolutely right. You were thinking, well, Clinton Portis is a great running back, but if our offensive line is great, we can just get anybody. The the three of us could probably run behind that offensive line. How good that offensive line was. But yeah, I mean, it's the fact that he got it, that helped us get 2 Super Bowls, and got Terrell Davis rush for 2,000 yards and MVP. He deserves to be in the Broncos lore for forever. The architect for those Broncos '90s teams. So good on him.
Yeah, for sure. And it was really, really sad, hearing him pass away, and the fact that he had a stroke, and just remembering like what a yeller and a screamer that he was for all those years. And yeah, it's crazy, but man, yeah, his offensive lines, they always produced, big time fantasy paydays from unexpected sources. So it's a lot of credit to him.
Yeah, no doubt. Considering how much he was a screamer, the offensive line were not allowed to talk to the media, and they would get fined if they did. So good old times, the good old days of Denver Bronco lore. So yeah, tough, and we wish him and his family and all Bronco Nation, because I mean that's a tough one. I didn't really know he was sick, but I mean 80 years old and probably lived a really full life. All right, let's get into some rookies, and we'll start off with those quarterbacks. And so interesting to look on how quarterbacks are viewed in the fantasy world. Not a lot of people are drafting quarterbacks to fill fantasy needs, at least at the draft. Maybe a flyer gets taken here or there, a backup gets drafted, and hoping something comes out of it. I was looking over the rookies last year, and this was going to be in your trivia, but I accidentally sent you guys my script with the answer, so I had to change up the MHA trivia, which I'll bring out a little later. But just looking at these quarterbacks, the rookies taken from last year, Justin Herbert led the way. Joe Burrow may have been up there as well. He got hurt. He was averaging about 45 points per game in our scoring system for the Cincinnati Bengals. And then Herbert, what a year he had. Finished, he was the third quarterback taken amongst those rookies last year, was the top scoring rookie at 779 points, 4,300 yards, passing 31 touchdowns, 5 rushing touchdowns. And so he had 31 passing, 5 rushing, and just had a great year. But in terms of trying to draft a guy, like, are you guys looking to draft a rookie quarterback as a backup? Or, I mean, you guys see Trevor Lawrence. He's obviously a guy that was the number 1 overall pick. A lot of people are saying that he's the best quarterback prospect since Andrew Luck. And we saw how his career went, at least when he was healthy. He was pretty incredible. So anybody excited to try the Trevor Lawrence, I don't know, project, if you will, to put him on your fantasy team, Mikey?
Yeah, I mean, why not? Like, you're talking about a true passing quarterback. In Jacksonville, they've got a lot of different, like, I'm not going to say like they're great weapons, but they're not bad. Like, they have DJ Chark and Marvin Jones, Laviska Shenault. They had James Robinson. You add Travis Etienne. I really like him. I think that he's at least, a really good, solid backup. I don't know about a starter, but yeah, I mean, I would definitely draft him as a backup.
What do you think, Todd? You're a big college guy. Trevor Lawrence, he broke Deshaun Watson's Georgia high school records in both yards and touchdown passes. They say he's kind of got the ultimate prototype for today's type of quarterback. Can stand in the pocket and has some mobility. What are you thinking about Trevor Lawrence? Is he the guy that you might end up with a backup on your team or in the draft?
Yeah, I mean, because I drafted Joe Burrow in his rookie year on my team. So, and obviously later, and I think it was like toward the end of the draft anyway. So obviously, yeah, I mean, to take a flyer, obviously Trevor Lawrence, yeah, he's, obviously being touted as a real, as a once in a generation quarterback, but a different time, a different story for a different day. But I mean, it's the thing is with rookie quarterbacks, and I agree with Mike, obviously not a starter per se. I mean, unless your team is stacked, with other positions. Yeah, I mean, obviously I'll take a flyer if he's there, kind of toward the end of the draft. But obviously I'm not going to draft him, anything higher than 10th round, maybe depending on maybe where I am in the draft there, but nothing before the 10th round. Nothing before the 10th round. I'm not gonna draft him, there because he's still a rookie quarterback, and obviously he's great, and and he's one. He goes down to one of the greatest college quarterbacks of all time, but it's the NFL. I mean, it's the NFL defenses are a little bit different than college, so that's kind of my 2 cents on that one. So.
Where, in terms of a backup quarterback, in this magazine I'm currently looking at, they have Trevor Lawrence 16th overall. Mm-hmm. So if you got your starting quarterback and you're looking at a backup, would you rather have Trevor Lawrence or Kirk Cousins? Anybody can answer.
Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins.
Mikey?
I might go upside with Lawrence there.
Seriously, really?
There is tremendous upside. Like, the learning curve, I feel like, for quarterbacks in their rookie season is not what it once was. I mean, you're seeing a lot of these guys just be able to come in and put up numbers. And, Cousins is one of those guys where you kind of know what he's going to do. And he's good. Like, he's a solid option. He won't hurt you. But Lawrence has that other upside to where, like, he could explode similarly to, like, a Justin Herbert. So being put in that position, I think I would have to take the risk there.
All right, interesting. Well, let's keep going on the next round of quarterbacks. And while we've kind of talked about Trevor Lawrence kind of being drafted as a backup, if Lawrence is off the boards, is Trey Lance or Justin Fields or Zach Wilson? Lance with the 49ers, Fields with the Bears, Zach Wilson for the Jets. Any of those guys intrigue you, or maybe guys that may get picked up during the season, Todd?
Well, I'll say right now, Trey Lance, I think I think the 49ers are gonna really make him sit. So I don't think you'll see him, unless Garoppolo gets hurt, which again, that's been a trend. Yeah, that the percentage for that could, is high, but I think they're gonna really want to let him sit. Justin Fields is kind of interesting. Obviously, we said this in the actual draft. I said the Broncos should have drafted him because, he's mobile. He can rush for a lot of yards, and he can light up the scoreboard with his passing. So even though they say Andy Dalton's going to be the number one right now, that is not. I don't think that's going to last because. For a different story, that's going to be, they're trying to save their job. But Justin Fields, if Lawrence is off the board, I would actually take a flyer on Justin Fields as a potential backup, just because his upside is there, but like I think he's ready to go kind of right now. Trey Lance. He, only played one game. Now it's because of, COVID and everything like that. But, he really needs to sit. So I would go Justin Fields. Justin Fields for, if I was choosing between Justin Fields and in some cases go Kirk Cousins, you said with Lawrence versus Kirk Cousins. In this case, I like Fields. I'd actually go Fields.
All right, Mikey, what do you think about that group?
Well, I know Todd's in love with Justin Fields, so you had to know where that answer was coming from. Out of the group, I actually would have to go with Zach Wilson. I agree with Todd in the fact that Trey Lance, I don't believe, is going to get an opportunity, or at least they're not going to want him to. Like, if they had it their way, Jimmy Garoppolo would be the starter throughout the season. Chicago is kind of similar. Like, I believe that Justin Fields is going to get his opportunity. I just don't know when it's going to be. Like, they've already said that they're planning on going with Dalton to start. So Wilson, we know, is going to be the starter from day one. And while he doesn't have like a lot of weapons in New York, this team is going to be a team that's down a ton because they're just not that good. So at least there's the opportunity for him to collect completions and some stats. So I got to go there.
Sure, I hear that. And Wilson, just looking at a couple different websites, a lot of Jake Plummer, Johnny Manziel type of comparisons with Wilson. So take that for what you will.
It's not a ringing endorsement.
No, I mean, at least Jake Plummer was a winner, but he's kind of got a gunslinger mentality. He can move his feet, pick up a bunch of yards downfield if need be. Has a lot to learn and trying to be in his decision making and so forth. Check out these comparisons and take them for what they're worth. Someone has Justin Fields compared to Dak Prescott, and then Trey Lance compared to Josh Allen. So that's a pretty high praise, but again, that's just information from so-called experts who, they see one quarterback, compare him to an NFL guy, and that doesn't always pay off. But if that's something that excites you, then if you want the next Josh Allen, then Trey Lance might be your guy, although depending on when he gets in and Garoppolo and all that. And Fields, there's a lot of upside and can run and he's got swagger, got confidence. So, yeah, there's those guys in the quarterback realm.
Yeah, Eric,
ahead,
just one thing. I do agree with you on, the comparison Trey Lance and Josh Allen is because, they kind of had a lot of, I don't want to say red flags or anything like that, but obviously Josh Allen, his big knock was, he wasn't accurate enough, kind of thing. And Trey Lance kind of in that his percentage is a little bit higher than Josh Allen's, but I do like that comparison a little bit. But at the end of the day, I don't think Trey Lance is going to be. I don't think you're going to see him in 2021. At least, maybe not until maybe to the end of the season if the 49ers aren't. But that defense is pretty good. So I think I might keep them in games. But just some food for thought.
Sure, and with Trey Lance, only had 318 pass attempts in college, so
yeah, it's not.
It may take a little bit of time. Anything and if you guys have nothing to say about these three guys, we'll probably just move on because quarterbacks, obviously, with fantasy may not go this deep. But with Mac Jones from the Patriots, Davis Mills for the Texans, talk about a guy that might have an opportunity, and Ian Book of the Saints. Obviously, they have a couple of quarterbacks that you have to battle through. But anything you want to say about that group of guys, Mikey?
Absolutely. If you have one of those guys on your team, then look forward to 2022.
Very good, Mikey.
Not be guys on your roster, according to Mikey.
Very good. Ian Book's kind of interesting. Obviously, he's going to the Saints, where Sean Payton could really good coach and everything like that, and he can learn. Ian Book could be interesting. Maybe not this year, but I think Ian Book's kind of. Very interesting. He got drafted late anyway. Played for Notre Dame, and at times looked really good, and other times I'll just example really bad against Miami, but we were out for blood for that one. But Ian Book's kind of interesting later down the road, kind of quarterback too. I don't think he's. I think Jameis Winston's going to be the quarterback for the 2021 season, but that's just.
And Taysom Hill in that mix as well, so take that for what it's worth.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, it's always cool when it always looks cool. Like, oh, you have Drew Brees and then you have Taysom Hill. Yeah, that looks really cool, but no more Drew Brees. So, it's kind of having that that safety blanket kind of thing, or the true Hall of Famer in there. It's like, oh, it looks great, but when nobody's there, it's different. But yeah, you're right. Take it for whatever it's worth.
They have Mac Jones compared to Daniel Jones, so I can't. Not a great start for him.
No.
That's what we'll end the quarterback discussion, because everybody wants to hear about the running backs.
Yeah.
And I think that's what everybody gets super excited about. They're the guys that go the earliest in NFL fantasy drafts. So we'll start off with the guy that was drafted first amongst all the running backs. That's Najee Harris. Over there in Pittsburgh, has every opportunity to play, considering the depth chart that he has to battle through, or doesn't have to battle through. But will he be the first running back drafted, Todd? And if not, who else is going to be the first rookie running back drafted in our draft this year?
Yes, Najee Harris will be the first. I think will be the first rookie running back to be drafted. I mean, there's really no competition. They kind of cleaned house. They're already talking about trying to Benny Snell. They're going to think about cutting him. So there's really no, and they got obviously rid of Connor. So there's really no competition for him. So this, this might be just like, Zeke Elliott. There wasn't really any competition. Now, granted, he was going an opportunity in a situation where their offensive line is one of the best in the league. Not as much anymore, but for Najee Harris, there's no really competition. There's nothing. I mean, you gotta just hope the offensive line holds up a little bit, but no, Najee Harris will be the first first rookie running back taken, and even two. I was thinking about this the other day when I was looking at Najee Harris, his situation and how the draft might go is. It might be the Saquon Barkley effect. And what I mean by that is Saquon Barkley has been injured 2 years in a row now. Serious injuries, right? So Saquon might drop and somebody might think, you know what, maybe I'll take my chance on the rookie instead of Saquon because Saquon might get hurt again. So that's why I think that might be that might be one of the reasons why Najee Harris might, be the first rookie running back to go, but also maybe go over a veteran running back, something like that. That's what I was thinking the other night. I was like, it might be the Saquon Barkley effect, kind of. So that's what I was thinking with that.
Todd's
situation.
creating effects out of thin air now.
I know, isn't it awesome? Yeah.
Never heard of that effect before. Todd's making it up as we go along. But I see what you're saying. Yeah, Mikey, Todd, you want to finish your thought?
No, I'm good.
Always has a lot to say. Mikey, from you? I'm sure have you seen highlights of Harris and Pittsburgh, for Pittsburgh? Did you see him on YouTube? What kind of running back does he remind you of, and how soon should he go in drafts?
He reminded me a little bit of Melvin Gordon. I think that just in the way that he runs, he's very upright with a little bit of shiftiness, and he's fast, but he's not super fast. So that's kind of the comparison that I had for him. Todd's right in the fact he should be the first rookie running back off the board, no question, just based on sheer volume alone. Pittsburgh needs him really bad. There's no other running back that should be competing with him. The one big issue I have, though, is Pittsburgh's offensive line may be the worst in the NFL. And if it's not, then it's close.
Absolutely.
So, they're going to need Harris just to protect Ben, who's already old. And, yeah, they've got a lot of receiving weapons, but they can't have him dropping back 40 times a game. They're going to need to be handing the ball off.
So should Harris go in the first round for you, Miguel?
Ooh, yeah, man.
Todd's saying
I'm against doing that, just because it still takes those guys a little bit to get going. So he could be a second round guy for me, but I was against Edwards-Helaire being a first round pick last year. Mm-hmm. And I'll be the same way with Harris. People could do it, but it wouldn't be something that I'm going to do.
But was that any different, Mikey, because when I drafted Saquon in his rookie year and you drafted Kareem Hunt, but was it just the situation that Saquon was a different type of running back and that he, compared to Harris kind of situation? Because obviously there wasn't going to be any competition in Saquon's rookie year. Obviously, does that kind of play into decision a little bit, or is it?
It does. It does. I think Barkley was a little bit. You could see Barkley was more of an explosive back, and that would be a lot more involved in the receiving game, and that kind of played out. Barkley was a guy that was catching a ton of passes in his rookie year. I don't necessarily see Najee Harris as being like that. Yeah. I see him as more of a runner, which is still good. I think they're going to use him a lot in the red zone, but I just don't see the type of upside that would make him a first round pick, especially with an offensive line that's going to struggle. Yeah. And, don't forget, they play in a division that's got some pretty good defenses in there.
Yeah.
When you're talking about Cleveland and you're talking about Baltimore. So, there's some real tough ones out there. So, I just don't have him as a first round
Okay.
That's just for me though.
Yeah, and too, you're talking about the receptions. Just looking right now, he had 43 receptions for 425 yards last season. Obviously, Saquon had a lot more. When he, coming into the league in his rookie year. So, but obviously they didn't they didn't ask Najee Harris to catch 50 or 60 balls anyway like that. So
43 is still pretty good
Pittsburgh.
in college.
It is, but Pittsburgh's also no Alabama of the NFL.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's really no team of that one, but.
Yep, and just kind of going back to that offensive line before we move on here, they have 3 new starters up front. Losing Pouncey to retirement hurts a ton. So think about that when you're trying to draft Najee Harris in the first round. That might be something that deters you into maybe the second round. Another top running back that goes to an interesting situation is Travis Etienne, who was a first-round pick from Clemson, 5'10", 215 pounds. He's the all-time ACC rusher. Mikey, what are your thoughts on this guy? And it could be anything about his situation or what he reminds you of. What do you think about this guy?
Well, like he's the ultimate wild card, I think, of all the rookies because you have to get a glimpse of what and how Jacksonville is going to utilize him, hopefully in the preseason, because they're almost trying to set this thing up. At least I think, in my opinion, that it's going to be like they're trying to do the Mark Ingram, Alvin Kamara thing with Robinson and Etienne. And Etienne is, I mean, you watch him, on these highlights, he's such an explosive player. Like you get him in open space, look out. So yeah, I mean, he's not somebody that right now I'd be able to trust and say that, I would take him like as a top 4, maybe even 5 round pick, but once you start getting into these, back where you're taking your 3rd and 4th running backs, yeah, I could do that just because, I mean, the upside is definitely there. You just don't know how much of the opportunity he's going to get.
Yeah, especially for at least a rookie that was last year with this squad. And Robinson, who had a great year in his own right. He's more of a in-between the tackles type of guy. Did catch a bunch of balls as well. So it'll be interesting in how they kind of run these two together at the same time. One thing I did notice is that he needs to work on his pass protection, which obviously will not keep him on the field, at least initially. And that's something he can work on, in preseason and in training camp and all that fun stuff. Todd, anything you want to mention about this guy who ran for 5,000 total rushing yards, 7.2 yards per carry, 78 total touchdowns, and had 102 receptions in his career?
I mean, at the end of the day, he's not. Obviously, he's not an every down back by any means. But it's interesting because I get it. We're most now in the NFL, the days of one main running back days are almost gone. There's not a lot of teams that have that, but I don't know. What was wrong with Robinson? Obviously, you want to get you want to get more weapons around him, but I don't know what Robinson looked like he was just fine, and this was a player that was undrafted anyway, in fantasy and in reality. So, Etienne's great, and he it's explosive, and that's what you want. But I don't know. I didn't see anything wrong with Robinson. I think you kind of want something at least a little bit. You want one stable, like especially a running back, because that's next to a tight end, that's a rookie's best friend is the running back, and at least Robinson obviously really showed like, hey, I can be that every down back. So, but Etienne, where I'm going to draft him, I agree with Mikey. There's upside. Later in the draft, maybe the 7th or 8th round, maybe, depending on where, if there's a wide receiver I don't like, then I'll do it. But I'm not really, jumping up for joy for Etienne, especially in that offense with a rookie quarterback too. like I said, I just don't know what's wrong with Robinson. Like that would be the one position I'm like, oh, we found a diamond in the rough. No pun intended. But I get it.
And I think it could have something to do with new management, right? You have a new head coach, and they may want to try something different. Robinson's not their guy. I'm not real sure. So we'll have to wait and see. It's interesting. He was pretty productive in college, although he was on a pretty prolific offense, and he could have just been a product of that offense. But let's keep going here, as I can see Mikey's back with us. Let's talk about some Tar Heel running backs. You have Javonte Williams, who's with the Broncos, Michael Carter with the Jets. Todd, of these two, who do you like better?
Oh, Williams, hands down. Carter was more of the smaller back. Williams was just more of that power back, and I just like the situation, here in Denver better than the Jets. I mean, the Jets, they're a young team. The quarterback's a rookie. They have rookie wide receivers. I mean, it's there's not a lot of the senior leadership on the Jets team than there is on the Broncos, and I just like Williams a little bit. I like Williams a little bit better, and there's and again, you take the reports take them with a grain of salt, but they're saying, well, he's pushing Melvin Gordon for that starting job, which is great, to some degree, because you're like, all right, he hit the ground running and really shows wants to be great. So I would pick Williams over Carter.
Mikey, what do you think about these two guys? Michael Carter may have the better situation to get more carries, unless you're madly in love with Tevin Coleman. I know you are not. There's Ty Johnson and LaMichael Pirine as well. So maybe Carter has an easier chance, because you still have Melvin Gordon there, and when he's healthy, he's a pretty productive back. So what do you think about these two guys?
Yeah, and that's exactly where I was going. I mean, I hate to disappoint the audience. I know we have a lot of Bronco fans listening. But everybody makes it to be so easy that, a rookie, and I don't care how good you are, a rookie to come in and unseat Melvin Gordon, like that's an easy thing to do. Like Melvin Gordon's a good player.
Yeah, no, I agree.
And he was good for us last year. It's not going to be easy, especially right away, for Javonte Williams to get a bunch of carries on this team. I just don't see that happening right away. So for now, I have to go with Michael Carter. And yeah, like Eric said, I mean, I hate Tevin Coleman. That's no secret. and the rest of the stuff around him's garbage. Michael Carter, when you look at him on film, and I just watched some YouTube highlights of him. He's the perfect running back for what the Jets are trying to do. He's like a one-cut running back, which will fit right in with the new system they're bringing in with the offensive coordinator, Mike LaFleur, who comes from the Shanahan tree. So, yeah, I mean, I just have this belief that at least initially, Williams might be the better player, but I feel like right now Carter might have the better scenario.
Yeah. Here's something fun that I'm going to throw out here, but watching Michael Carter on YouTube gave me DeAndre Swift goose pimples. Like, that dude was incredible. He's fast. He's shifty. He can get to the end zone. And for him to do what he did playing in the ACC, I think he was kind of underdrafted. I mean, he was drafted in the 4th round. And the thing that bothers me the most about him is Jets' offensive line is not very good. But you put him in space, he can make some things happen. He's a guy that I think maybe not right at the beginning, but I mean, he could get in there and kind of light up the fantasy world a little bit. I liked what I saw from his tape, and he could be, I mean, a lot of people are saying he's kind of the next Clyde Edwards-Helaire. So take that for what it's worth, but 4th round pick and he ran for 3,400 yards, 28 touchdowns, and had 82 receptions. So keep an eye on this guy. He might surprise some folks. All right. Kind of the next round of running backs, you have Trey Sermon with the 49ers, Ramondre Stevenson, who's with the Patriots, and Kenneth Gainwell from the Eagles. Any of these guys excite you, Miguel?
Trey Sermon does. I mean, you watch this dude, it's like a bullet.
Yeah.
Dude's got explosion for days. And like out of all those situations, like with Kyle Shanahan, like there's a crowded backfield over there because they still got Mostert and Jeff Wilson and they brought in Wayne Gallman. But what I love about the 49ers and the way they run their team, like if they find a guy and he has a certain special skill, like no matter what, they find a way to get him on the field. So yeah, I mean, they will find a way to use Trey Sherman and his explosive running. I can count on that. With the other guys, the Patriots, I don't see it happening. They've got so many guys there, with Harris and James White and Sony Michel. And the Eagles, Miles Sanders is probably going to be the 3-down guy. And there's a chance he gets hurt, so you never know. But I'm going to go with Sermon.
Todd, about these guys, I'll mention real quick about the 49ers. And I know I'm a big Raheem Mostert guy, but he's missed 22 games the last 4 seasons, including 8 games last year. So definitely an opportunity for Sermon to come in an offense that likes to run the ball, and they do it well. Anything about these guys you want to mention?
I mean, probably just by default, because I mean, I wasn't this draft class of running backs in general anyway wasn't. I mean, it was more, if anything, top heavy with Harris and Etienne and Williams. But I mean, probably just by default, because like you said, mentioned the 49ers backfield. I mean, we've all, I think at one point last season, we've all experienced the 49ers running back backfield and just, cringed because we're just like, oh, here we go. Who's gonna get the carries today? Who's gonna get hurt today? And it's just you just don't know. So I think Sermon just gets in there by default. Because I watch enough college football, and none of these guys really, jump off a page for me. And usually I can find those these college running backs that nobody really knows about, and later rounds, but these guys don't really even jump off the page for me.
Todd says not having any of these dudes.
No, not even close. No. This, I can trying to find these no-name running backs, whether they're third string, fourth string, or rookies. But this list, not doing it for me.
Just some quick notes on these guys. Sermon, runs with purpose, looking to run defenders over. 7.5 yards per carry in his senior year, 29 total touchdowns in 4 years at Oklahoma State and Ohio State. Stevenson's kind of a big back as well, hard to bring down. If anything, he could be just the goal line back for the Patriots. Stevenson, if I didn't mention his name, he could be the next Burkhead. He may not be the guy in between the 20s, but he could be inside the 10 type of guy. And Kenneth Gainwell.
Whoa, wait.
What's wrong?
We all know Cam Newton
Very
is the goal line running back.
Yeah. If there's a goal line running back, Stevenson could be that guy. I agree. Yeah. Very good call, Miguel. Cam Newton had 12 rushing touchdowns with New England. And some last notes on Kenneth Gainwell. Small guy, 5'9", not the quickest. Head coach over there said they would use him more as kind of the Nyheim Hines role. But they also have Boston Scott, who kind of does that already. So he may have 2 guys he has to jump along with Miles Sanders. So any other running backs you guys want to mention that are rookies, or should we move on to wide receivers?
I say let's go into the receivers.
Yeah. All right, wide receivers. Yeah. So wide receivers in last year's draft, this list of names is incredible. I mean, Henry Ruggs didn't do a lot, but he was drafted in the first round. Jerry Jeudy, CeeDee Lamb, Jalen Reagor, who was hurt most of the year. Justin Jefferson, who was incredible. Brandon Ayuk, and that was all first round guys. They also have guys like T. Higgins, Michael Pittman. Mike, you mentioned a couple of these guys, Laviska Shenault. You also had Chase Claypool. Just a big number of receivers that's kind of stormed the NFL. Justin Jefferson from Minnesota finished 10th in our point system. Chase Claypool, 22nd, and CeeDee Lamb, 23rd. So guys that can make a difference. But in the history, how far or how much can you trust wide receivers? How often does a wide receiver come in and put up big fantasy stats? We saw Justin Jefferson So, guys, time for a little MHA trivia.
If my answers frighten you, Vincent, then you should cease asking scary questions.
I'm gonna take.
And we're going to go all the way back to 2010. So, in the past 11 years, can you name me the top rookie wide receivers that came in their first year and put up big fantasy stats? I have a list of 5. And we'll go back and forth, and whoever has the most points will win. We saw Todd win last week on the show. So let Mikey go first. And if you could just name me one of the top 5 receivers that had incredible rookie years. Mikey.
I'm going to go with Justin Jefferson.
Well, he's not going to count. I'm sorry. We'll go before last year. That's obvious. It's an obvious one since I even mentioned it. But it goes before last year. So I'll give you another shot.
Okay.
My mistake.
All right. So we're going back to what year now?
Since 2010, the top rookie wide receiver
Okay.
seasons.
I'm going to go with Dez Bryant.
I'm sorry, Dez Bryant, not in the top 5. In fact, he's not even in the honorable mention that I have as well. Todd, your turn.
I'll go.
This is not a good start, gentlemen.
Demarius Thomas.
Nope, Devarius Thomas not in the list as well. Back to you, Miguel. Maybe this was a little too difficult. Maybe I should give you the answers and we just have a better show.
Funny.
That's not nice.
No, no. Not.
Am I going to have to start giving out hints already?
I'll go with, let's see. Give me Amari Cooper.
Oh, I'm sorry, Amari Cooper, not amongst the best. Todd, back to you. And if Todd doesn't get one, then go ahead.
Julio Jones.
He's in my honorable mention, but he's not one of the top 5. How do I give you clues here?
How
about I just say the team and the year? I don't know if that'll give you too much, but I'll give you the most difficult one. Number 5 on the list, Carolina Panthers in 2014.
Kelvin Benjamin.
Hey, very good job, Todd. 167 points, and that's based on our system.
Okay.
He had 73 receptions, 1,000 yards, and 9 touchdowns. So good job, Todd, getting a point there.
Okay, I'm going to go with...
Mike's going to throw out a guess.
Hey.
Yeah, why not? I'll go with Keenan Allen.
He was in the honorable mention back in 2013, but not in the top 5. How about, this might be a tough one, 2010, Tampa Bay wide receiver.
Oh, Mike Evans.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, that's incorrect. Well, Mike Evans was 2014 with Tampa Bay. He was number 3.
Oh,
68 receptions, 1,000 yards, and 12 touchdowns.
Oh.
So I'll give Todd the point.
I was gonna say Vincent Jackson.
Oh no, I'm sorry, that is incorrect. How about we go? It's something now. It's gonna be easy here. So, how about New Orleans 2016? Then say it.
That's Michael Thomas.
Oh, there you go. Good job, Miguel. Michael Thomas, the second best rookie performance in 2016. 92 receptions, close to 1,200 yards, and 9 touchdowns. This Giants wide receiver in 2014.
OBJ.
OBJ, that is correct. The top rookie wide receiver season, 91 receptions, 1,300 yards, and 12 touchdowns. So that's 3 points for Todd. He'll win this one. Anybody want to take a last guess at the number 4 guy, the Tampa Bay wide receiver in 2010? That's a tough one.
Trying to think of Tampa Bay wide receivers.
No, because he was already. I was gonna say Antonio Bryant, he was.
Yeah, I'm afraid not.
Yeah, that's a little before. Ooh.
Yeah, it's a toughie. It is a toughie. 3, 2, 1. So Mike Williams.
Mike Williams from Syracuse, right?
I don't know. You'll have to Google that one. But he had 65 receptions, 964 yards, and 11 touchdowns.
Because I know there was a Mike Williams from USC, but
Right.
I think this.
Detroit.
Yeah, that was. But this Mike Williams, I think, is Syracuse. I'll Google that one. But
some honorable mentions: AJ Green in 2011. How about this old name, Marcus Colston? Yeah, how about that? Keenan Allen and Julio Jones, as you guys mentioned. So actually, Marcus Colston, I have next to him 2006. So that was before 2010. But maybe I just wanted to mention that name because it's been so long. So there you go. So just it happens where rookies come out. We saw Justin Jefferson finish 10th in our league. They come out and do really, really well. Continuing this rookie talk, Jamar Chase, one of the top wide receivers drafted in the NFL this year in 2021. LSU product. Todd, what do you like about this guy?
This is physical. This guy, I mean, 2019, 1,700 yards, 84 receptions, 20 touchdowns. I mean, this guy's physical wide receiver. Everything you want, everything he wants. I mean, he's 6 foot, 201, but still. And the fact that the situation he's going to play with his college quarterback. Talk about chemistry already ready to go. Yeah, this is going to be the first rookie wide receiver to go in the draft. And I'll say now that I would draft him maybe in the top 4 rounds of our draft. I think he's that good. He's that good, and the fact that he sat out last year, he's ready to go. He's ready to go, and I'm even calling it now. He might win. He might put up even bigger numbers than Justin Jefferson did, and might win, and might have a chance to win Rookie of the Year. I know I'm bold prediction right now, but that's how good I think he can be. Because he's going into a situation where he knows his quarterback already. That's a win right there. How like usually when you're going, when you get drafted, you're going to a new team, but also a new quarterback. But you're going to a team that already has your quarterback that you played in college with. That's a win-win right there. So, bam.
Mikey, you want to tell him why he's wrong? That he won't win Rookie of the Year?
I don't know whether or not he's going to win Rookie of the Year. I mean, the situation is nice for him, being able to go back in and be with Joe Burrow again. And, Cincinnati's building quite the, receiving court there with him and Boyd and T. Higgins. So it's not like he's going to be seeing like double coverage or anything like that. He's a nice, really good speed, can fly down the field. I think he's going to be really good. I don't know that I'm going to glow in the way that Todd is, because for a lot of receivers, there is an adjustment period. We didn't see that with Justin Jefferson last year, but I mean, what he did is hard to do. So I'm not willing to blow my stack, but I will say that I believe that he will be probably the best rookie wide receiver of the entire class.
Where would you draft him, Mikey?
I'm not going to say top 4. I'm more likely than not going to say top 6.
Okay. Right around. So it's not too far off. Okay.
So according to this magazine, because they're pretty high on him too, they have him ranked 26 amongst wide receivers. They kind of have him behind like Deontay Johnson from Pittsburgh, CeeDee Lamb, Brandon Cooks, ahead of guys like Kenny Galladay, Robbie Anderson. Does that sound right to you guys, or should they move him up or down?
You said Deontay Johnson, and you said Robbie Anderson?
Well, Deontay Johnson ahead of him, Robbie Anderson behind him. So who would you rather have, Jamar Chase or Kenny Galladay?
Jamar Chase. I'd actually go Jamar Chase, on that one. I'm not a big Kenny.
It's close. It's probably closer than maybe I think, but I think I would still go Galladay.
Yeah, I have to agree with you as well. The only thing, and I'm not saying he's not a great player and he's got a great situation, but there's still two amazing wide receivers ahead of him. And I know they can play all three of them at the same time, and they really don't have a tight end that's worth mentioning. But I don't know. When you have, I mean, Justin Jefferson was the number 2 wide receiver in that offense, and Chase is going to come in as the number 3 guy. Not saying it couldn't happen, but Burrow would have to put up some pretty astonishing numbers to get all 3 of these guys involved. And then he could. He was on a really good pace. As I mentioned, he was averaging about 45 points a game, at least in our system. So just that's something to think about. There's other wide receivers in the mix that could also steal catches and targets away. Let's talk about a couple Alabama wide receivers, Jalen Waddell, or is it Waddle?
Waddle.
So Jalen Waddle, he was drafted 6th overall, I believe, and by the Dolphins. And then Devonta Smith, the Heisman Trophy winning wide receiver, drafted by the Eagles, 10th overall. Mikey, either one of these guys you like better than the other?
It's funny because it's the same thing where both guys are going back to quarterbacks that they had in the past.
That's pretty wild.
It seemed to be a pattern with this rookie class. If I have to go between the two, I'm going to give a slight edge to Devonta Smith over Jalen Waddle, just because, I mean, you look at where Waddle's going, he's going to a Dolphins team that, they've got Will Fuller coming in. They already had Devontae Parker. They had Gesicki there. Tua's still got to find himself. So it's going to be just as hard for him to spread the ball around to all those guys evenly. So I'm not really super high on that situation in itself. Philly, they probably should be terrible, and you don't really know 100% if it's going to be Jalen Hurts, but it probably will be. And they've been looking for a number 1 for a long time. So I've got to give it to Devonta Smith over Waddle for now.
Waddle is being compared to Tyreek Hill, both kind of short but explosive guys. Devonta Smith, one website had a Calvin Ridley comp. Todd, what do you think about these two guys, Waddle and Devonta Smith?
Well, Devonta Smith, obviously, know what he did in college, putting up just numbers just insane. But with him, the only thing and obviously he'll build muscle, but gotta be he's not the dude's really skinny. I mean, he has to put on some muscle, and injury's kind of the thing you got to be really careful about too with him. Waddle obviously didn't play much because obviously he got hurt. I do agree a little bit. He's explosive. I mean, I don't know if Waddle's Tyreek Hill. There's a wide receiver when we get closer to the end here that is a better comparison in my mind that I think is a better wide receiver closer to Tyreek Hill than Waddle. But the situation in Waddle's obviously, like I said, going to a team and to a quarterback that he knows very well. So that definitely helps. It helps that rhythm and helps that on the field when it comes to getting the ball to him. So and Smith, again, he's explosive. There's no doubt about that. I'm not saying he's not that, but it's just I'm just thinking more about durability for him in the NFL. I mean, definitely has to put on a little bit more muscle and pounds because, like I said, dude was like 175. I mean, that. I don't know. And especially if you're gonna be a number 1 guy and how physical defenses are in the NFL compared to college, got to be careful of that. But if I was gonna have to choose one of them to draft, I would actually go for more of the upside, a little bit more with Waddle in Miami compared to Smith. I mean, who knows? Smith obviously might get more opportunities, but I just like Waddle's situation a little bit better. That I think they're going to try to get him the ball a little bit more. I mean, because Fuller can get hurt too, and Smith can get hurt. So, kind of by default, I go with Waddle. As good as Smith is, but I think I'd go with Waddle instead if I was going to draft either one of those.
Yeah, it seems like Waddle can definitely stretch the field, averaged over 20 yards per catch. As you mentioned, kind of injury prone, only had 2,000 yards receiving in 3 years. But Smith, man, it's hard to ignore his production. 23 touchdowns last year, 14 touchdowns as a sophomore. So definitely interesting to see where they'll go in this year's MHA draft. A couple of other receivers, Rashad Bateman from the Ravens, Elijah Moore goes to the Jets, Kadarius Toney with the Giants. Todd, one of these guys have that Tyreek Hill comparison in your books?
Well, not any of these guys you have on your list. It was more Rondell Moore. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
But
go ahead.
Yeah. The one wide receiver that I was just comparing, the one that I think is more comparable that I saw highlight wise and saw a few games was Rondell Moore. He got drafted by Arizona. He played for Purdue. His highlights I seen, he's definitely looks a little bit more that Tyreek Hill type mold compared to Bateman, Elijah Moore, and so forth. So that's kind of my, I guess, a sleeper one pick or something, a wide receiver I think that might actually do pretty good in Arizona there. So that's the kind of the one. Not too high on Bateman, depending on the situation, obviously, and how him and Lamar Jackson can fuse together. I think it could be interesting, but I think Rondell Moore. That was kind of more my Tyreek Hill mold.
Sure. Ends up with Arizona, who's got DeAndre Hopkins. Obviously, AJ Green is now there, but he's an older AJ Green, and also Christian Kirk, who had moments last year. So Kyler Murray does like to throw the ball. I mean, we'll see how James Conner comes in and tries to run the ball. So
Eric's favorite player.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Pittsburgh didn't get rid of James Conner. James Conner got rid of James Conner.
Yeah, that's very true. He took himself out of the situation himself.
Yeah. Mikey, Bateman, Moore, Toney, any of these guys, MHA owners should think about, and the draft is kind of coming up towards the end.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Bateman is a really nice fit. Like he's a type of guy that I feel like a team like Baltimore really needed. He's a really big, upright, tall receiver, and for somebody like Lamar Jackson, I think that he should be a really, really big red zone threat. They never really had that, with the Ravens with Lamar Jackson. So I'm going to give my pick to Rashad Bateman.
Yeah, I was reading something too. I mean, they say he kind of got that Michael Gallup comp, but he's a guy that works the middle of the field, which is definitely something they could use. I mean, they have Sammy Watkins there now, but he's kind of an outside guy that try to go deep every once in a while. Same thing with Marquise Brown, just kind of a speedster. So I think you're right. This guy could be more of a possession. The Ravens do run more than any other team, 44% over the last couple of years. Elijah Moore comes from Ole Miss. Not a lot of competition, unless you count Corey Davis. And Mikey will tell you that's not competition, but Jamison Crowder's still there, Denzel Mims. His former coach says he's kind of comparable to Steve Smith. So take that for what it's worth. Kadarius Toney. There's a lot of other receivers in that mix with Galladay Shepard and Darius Slayton. So not a lot of guys that are going to jump out on the page unless an injury happens early to some guys in front of them. Any other guys? I mean, Todd, you kind of mentioned your guy from Arizona. Mikey, do you have another wide receiver you want to mention?
Yeah, one guy that I was looking at was in Detroit, Amon-Ra St. Brown. He is the brother of Equanimeous St. Brown, the Green Bay wide receiver. And I think that he's going to get a chance in Detroit. Detroit's wide receiver core is garbage already.
You don't like Tyrell Williams? That's a no.
Garbage. Yeah, it's a no. But no, I mean, you watch him. I really like. He's very good. He's got really good hands, good body positioning to the ball. Like he finds a way to catch it right at the perfect point. So I think Jared Goff is going to fall in love with this guy. He really does kind of remind me of Robert Woods in a lot of ways. So that would be my pick.
I like it. That's good stuff.
Amon-Ra St. Brown.
A guy I'll throw out there, same division. I will say with Green Bay, you've got Amari Rodgers, and It all depends on if Mr. Aaron Rodgers is coming back to the squad. I mean, you have Devontae Adams, but Marquez Valdez-Scantling and Alan Lazard have done nothing to really prove that they need to be in the lineup. So give this guy, I know he's only 5'9", but he could stretch the field and won't drop passes. We've seen those other two wide receivers over there in Green Bay. So he should be able to earn himself some time and possibly get in there. You never know if Tanyan's still in the mix and Aaron Rodgers got to come back, but a guy you want to take a flyer on late might not be a bad option. So Mari Rodgers from Green Bay. Let's move on over to the last position, and this might be the shortest because tight ends, we know how that kind of goes with fantasy, at least in terms of rookies, but the guy we have to talk about, Kyle Pitts, who was drafted 4th overall by the Falcons, comes out of the University of Florida. He is the highest drafted tight end in NFL history. So, Mikey, is this guy going to be worth the hype, and should we draft him as a top 5 tight end in our league?
I don't know whether or not he's going to be worth the hype, but he should, and he definitely will be drafted as a top 5 tight end. And it's only because when you look at the tight ends, like once you get past that first 3 of Kelsey and Waller or Kittle, whatever order you want to put them in, there just isn't like that next group where you're like enamored with them. And with Kyle Pitts, like you look at his size, his speed, his athleticism, like there's just so much upside, and he's going to be going to a team that loves to pass the ball that is losing all of Julio Jones's targets. You just almost have to bite the bullet and take the risk.
Yeah, top tight ends drafted. A couple of Lions that we all know about. Brandon Pettigrew was drafted 20th overall in the first round a few years back. Played in 11 games, had 54 targets, 30 receptions, and 2 touchdowns. And TJ Hawkinson, drafted not too long ago. First round, 8th overall, played in 12 games his rookie year, 59 targets, 32 receptions, 367 yards, and 2 TDs. Todd, Kyle Pitts, is he on your radar if you don't get one of the top 3 tight ends?
Yes, and just like Mikey kind of said, kind of like by default, really, because like I said, Kelsey, George Kittle, and Darren Waller. I mean, after that, you're kind of just throwing darts in the dark at a dartboard to see if which one sticks, and at least Kyle Pitts, the hype behind him and what he did, and like I said, Mikey's right, especially in an offense where no more Julio Jones, so it's Calvin Ridley and who else? So Kyle Pitts is kind of by default, but he definitely showed he can light up the scoreboard.
Who would you rather have? And we'll mention a guy I just mentioned. Would you rather draft Kyle Pitts or TJ Hawkinson? Anybody can answer.
Ooh, that's a good one.
I would take Kyle Pitts.
No kidding. Are you that excited about the Falcons offense, or are you just not high on what's going on in Detroit? And I guess he has a new quarterback, so there's that.
I am just down on Detroit.
I mean, Hawkinson had a pretty good second year, 67 receptions, 6 touchdowns, 700 yards. But the upside of Pitts still kind of intrigues you.
It does. It does. Yeah, it really, really does.
All right, so would you take Pitts over Mark Andrews?
I think I would take Andrews.
Yeah, I'd take Andrews. I'd take Andrews in that case. That's a tough one. That's a tough one compared.
Mark Andrews was your boy not too long ago.
Yeah.
You ready to jump off the Mark Andrews train? That's a yes.
Yeah.
Todd,
Well, no,
Todd has his guys until they burn him.
Yeah, I know. No, I would pick Andrews, and I would pick Andrews over Pitts in that situation.
A stat I found, and they didn't mention the 2 guys, but since 1998, only 2 tight ends topped 627 yards in their rookie season, and those tight ends saw 115 targets. And Arthur Smith, who is now over with Atlanta, the head coach, he had Jonnu Smith last year with Tennessee, and he had just 65 targets. So I'm going to take that, who knows what that means, but if that's going to make a huge difference, you draft a guy that high, you figure they're going to use him. They say generational talent on this guy. But the odds, if you go by the odds, that he's not going to come out and have an amazing, or at least have more than 700 yards, and maybe touchdowns could be up there. Is there any other tight ends that owners should look at, or is this the only one? Obviously, I mean, you guys said that tight ends aren't deep. If you're willing to put Kyle Pitts in your top 5 or 6, is there another tight end owners should keep an eye on? Anybody can go.
I actually have one, and this is only because, and I'm not saying that this guy should be drafted, but I mean, this is what happens with tight ends. I mean, Todd's like the perfect example. He would always just take the one that scored the touchdown the previous week. So we're just talking about a guy that could end up on a roster at some point. Sure. Then I'm going to go with Pat Freiermuth from, the Penn State tight end that got drafted by Pittsburgh. They call him Baby Gronk. And he probably would have went a lot higher in the draft if he wasn't so much like Gronk and got injured during the season last year. Yeah. But I mean, he does look like him when you watch him. He's a big body dude, very physical, likes to lower that shoulder after he completes the catch. Big target in the red zone. Eric, if this guy stays healthy, I'm going to tell you right now, Eric Ebron better look out.
All right, gentlemen. Well, that's a lot of rookie talk. We talked a lot of rookies that should get drafted, that shouldn't get drafted, that maybe ends up on rosters later. Did anybody enamor you? Did anybody, like someone that got on your mind and thought, man, this is a guy I could really draft, or maybe a guy you weren't expecting to be excited about, now you're excited about, and maybe thinking about putting in your, or maybe lifting up in your rankings at all? Mikey?
The one guy that after kind of going through watching stuff that I'm higher on than when I started, it would be Travis Etienne.
Nice. Yeah, definitely a guy that could. It was, oh man, his college numbers are incredible. Todd, anybody that jump out to you that you're now excited about? And I know you're already excited about these college guys already, but you went through and did some research, like, you know what, maybe I should keep an eye on this guy when the draft comes around.
Yeah, I think the guy said that Rondell Moore when I was looking at his highlights and everything. He was only 5'7", so Tyreek Hill's like 5'10", but the comparisons between the two, they just, because they move them all around the field, and I'm a little excited for him just because I think they can put him in the slot because the Cardinals trying to have a hard time trying to. Obviously it's easy when you have Hopkins to throw the ball to, but having that slot wide receiver and having that wide receiver where you can move all around the field, I think definitely it got me intrigued a little bit more to maybe draft.
And as I mentioned, I love me some Michael Carter now. I know he's only 5'8", and I know he's on a bad team, but I love DeAndre Swift, and he went into a bad team and was able to put up some fantasy stats. So definitely in love with Michael Carter. All right, gentlemen, well, that'll do it for some rookie talk. We'll get into some quarterback rankings next week, especially in our league where it's super important to pick the right guy and have backups, especially after the injuries we had last year. So, guys, hopefully everything went okay with this new format, new software, and some of us have new equipment, so keep your fingers crossed that everything goes well.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
we don't want to do this again, right?
Yeah, besides the internet's just conking at us a little bit, everything I think went fine.
We're definitely pushing a couple of different bandwidth through. We have 3 different audio lines going at one time, and I'm on the Wi-Fi. I'm not directly connected, but we've been holding up pretty good here in the last 45 minutes or so. But gentlemen, thanks for coming on, and we'll see everyone next time talking quarterbacks on the MHA Podcast.